Alright guys, so this is Mr. Grimsland here. We're talking about the Persian War. The Persian War is fought between the Greeks and the Persians, if you couldn't figure that one out from the name. So first of all, before we start talking about the war, just some innovations to talk about. With previous civilizations, we talked about bronze weapons, so now we're talking about iron weapons. So the Greeks are going to be able to create iron weapons, which are cheaper, they're sturdier. They pretty much make it easier for your army to kill the other people's army. So it makes it easier to kill people with iron weapons. And it means the armies are going to get bigger because more people can afford weapons because they're cheaper. So now the Greeks are going to develop a combat tactic called the phalanx, which is a bunch of, we call the Greek soldiers hoplites. So a bunch of hoplites are going to lock their shields together for protection, and then they're going to move kind of as a unit and drive the enemy using their spears. So here's just a picture of some iron weapons. These are going to be a little more sturdy than bronze. These are some of the weapons we found from a Greek architectural dig, and they would use those to kill people. The phalanx, this is a picture of it, usually 16 by 16. Your shield would overlap with the person next to you, so you're always responsible for protecting not only yourself but the person next to you. And this contributes to kind of that idea of the phalanx being one unit. So that unit's going to be pretty destructive and a pretty good force in warfare. Alright, so now talking about the actual Persian War. The main cause of the war is that some Athenians aided a Ionian revolt against Darius the Great. So what does that mean? Darius controls Persia. The Persian Empire is part of Asia Minor, which is on the right part of your map right here. And there's some Greek colonies there. Remember we talked about the Greeks making colonies because they needed extra farmland. They were good sailors, so they set up colonies over there. They don't particularly like being ruled by the Persians. So Darius, they're going to revolt against Darius. Darius will crush the revolt, and he's going to vow revenge upon Athens because Athens kind of helped those colonies out with the revolt. And Darius is going to send a fleet to Marathon, which is near Athens, and they're going to duke it out with the Greeks there. So what happens at Marathon is basically the Athenians kind of trounce the Persians. They win pretty easily. They're able to turn the Persian flank. When we say turn the flank, we mean kind of surround them, kind of get behind them, and that's going to be the key to their battle. They're actually going to let the Persians kind of drive through them, and then that means the Persians are now surrounded on three sides. And that map in the top left corner kind of shows you what happened. So they turn the Persian flank, they win decisively, and the Persians are going to retreat. They're going to say, we don't want to do this anymore, let's go fight. Let's go right to Athens and let's try and take Athens while the Athenians are still here. So somebody named Phidippides is sent by the Athenians to go run as fast as he can to Athens to warn the people not to run away from the city, to hold strong because the Athenian army is coming. And Phidippides runs 26 miles from Marathon to Athens. And surprise, surprise, when we think about marathons today, 26 miles. So I wonder why that is. So upon arrival, he collapses and dies, but he's able to warn the Athenian army that the Persians are coming and that the Athenian army is coming as well. So the Persian army sees this, the Athenian army beats them there, and the Persians just kind of go home. Alright, so that's kind of the first part of the war. The second part is 10 years later, 480 BCE. Xerxes has seized the throne, and he's going to try and get revenge on the Greeks for kind of beating his father, Darius. So Xerxes is Darius' son. Remember, monarchies are hereditary, so the son will be the next ruler. So Xerxes is the next ruler. He chooses an overland route through Macedonia, so he wants to go overland. He crosses over the water that separates Asia Minor and kind of the Greek area. There's a strait there, and he creates a land bridge. And that land bridge is made up of ships that are tied together. So unfortunately for the engineers who made the bridge the first time, the bridge collapsed, the waves kind of washed it away, and Xerxes was mad, so he had all the engineers killed, and he also was mad at the water for having the audacity to uh, try and do something against him, so he had the water punished and chastised by throwing hot coals into the water. So after he punishes the water, he orders a second group of engineers to build the land bridge, and this time it works. They go around through Macedonia, and they're going to meet the Greeks at a pass known as Thermopylae, or the Hot Gates. So the Greeks decide this is a good defensible position, and they're going to try and fight the Persians here. So what happens is this is kind of the story of 300, if you've ever seen the movie. It's actually going to be... So it's 7,000 Greeks total, 300 Spartans who are kind of the main fighting force. The Spartans are the best fighters in Greece. And they're going to go meet the Persian army at that mountain pass in Thermopylae, and they're going to get into a really narrow area. It's only about 2 meters wide. So the Persians have about 300,000 people in their army, but because the pass is so narrow, those numbers don't mean anything. They have to kind of funnel their people into the pass. And for 3 straight days, the Greeks are going to kind of brutally beat the Persians. About 20,000 Persians will die at Thermopylae, but eventually, depending on what you believe, the Persians will either figure out a way behind the Spartans on their own, figure out a way through the pass, or if you believe there's a traitor from the Greeks who kind of betrays the Greeks and tells the Persians where the pass is. So eventually the Persians are going to flank the Spartans and the Greeks, and King Leonidas from Sparta and his 300 Spartans will basically fight to the last man in order to allow the rest of the Greeks to escape. So the end result, the Persians are going to win, but it's a very costly victory for them, and this is going to inspire the rest of the Greeks to fight with honor. So after his win at Thermopylae, Xerxes keeps moving on. He's going to burn Athens to the ground, actually. This is fine for Athens because there's actually no one there. Their leader, his name's Themistocles. Their leader moves all their people to Salamis, all their fighters to Salamis, and they fight a naval battle there where it's kind of much like the Hot Gates in Thermopylae. They lure the Persians into a small, narrow strait of water, and then they use their superior ships and naval tacticians to defeat the Persians at Salamis. So after that, the last battle of the Persian War is going to be at Plataea. It'll be a land battle led by the Spartans. The Greeks will kind of beat the Persians pretty bad, and that's the last we ever see of the Persians. So after that, Athens, Thebes, and a handful of other Greek city-states will form the Delian League, which is kind of like an alliance, whereas modern day we have like the UN or NATO or stuff like that. Back then, they formed the Delian League. The goal was to kind of protect Greek from outside forces, maintain Greek independence. And when we say outside forces, we mean namely Persia. And it's going to leave the Greeks in control of the Aegean Sea, and it's going to allow Athens to preserve its independence and continue its cultural innovation. So you'll see Athens, remember, kind of got burned to the ground. They'll rebuild, and they're going to continue being independent and continue making important contributions in art, science, philosophy, all those things. And we'll talk about that next class. All right.